Good morning, dear students of class 11 science. Welcome to biology class. We are dealing with the chapter biological classification. In the last class we have learned about the kingdom Monera. Right, so in today's class we will begin with the new topic, with the new kingdom, that is kingdom Protista. Clear? And under this topic, under the kingdom Protista, we are going to learn about two general characteristics and two examples of the subgroups. Right, and what are the subgroups? The subgroups are chrysophytes, dinoflagellates, euglenoids, slime molds, and protozoans. Okay, these are the 5 subgroups which we are going to learn under the kingdom Protista. And under the protozoans, we have got few groups, or let's say few classes under protozoans, which are rhizopods, flagellates, ciliates, and sporozoans. Clear? So we will learn two characteristics, including the mode of locomotions, and two examples. Okay, so these are the topics which are there under the kingdom Protista, which we have to learn. Clear? So let's begin with the first one, the kingdom Protista general characteristics. So before going into the general characteristics, we'll go to the figure number 2.12, the structure of a typical Protistan cells. Clear? This is the structure of a typical Protistan cells. Okay, so A, and in B you can see the cross section of the flagellum. So this one is the flagellum, which will mainly help in locomotion. Okay, either the protozoans, they will consist of flagella, or there will be cilia for their movement. Okay, and this one is the cross-sectional view of the flagellum, showing 9.2, 9 plus 2 internal microtubular organizations. In last class we have learned about the 9 plus 2 microtubular arrangement, right? So over here the central plus 2 microtubules, and here you can see 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, is 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So the arrangement is 9 plus 2 microtubular organization. Okay, so go to the figure number 2.12 from your textbook. Okay, so the kingdom Protista, it includes a diverse group of multicellular, unicellular eukaryotic organisms. Mentioning that they are composed of unicellular eukaryotic organisms. But if you remember the kingdom Monera, they were unicellular prokaryotic microorganisms. So kingdom Protista includes the unicellular eukaryotic organisms, and when we used to study them phylogenetically from the evolutionary point of view, we will find out that these Protista, they will form a link between the prokaryotic Monera and the eukaryotes on the other hand. So it acts as a cross link between the prokaryotic Monera and the eukaryotes on the other hand. Okay, so it acts as a connecting link between these two particular groups. Now, photosynthetic protists, that means those who are able to undergo the process of photosynthesis, they are represented by unicellular algae, and those who are heterotrophs, they are represented by the help of slime molds and protozoans. Clear? Now, since these Protista, they are eukaryotes, the Protista contain the cell body with a well-defined nucleus, and they have got several membrane-bound organelle. Membrane-bound organelle means they have got mitochondria, okay, they have got Golgi body, okay, they have got ribosomes. These are the membrane-bound organelle which are present in the kingdom Protista. Next one, this Protistan, they used to move from one place to another place. That means locomotion. Okay, so they used to move from one place to another place by the help of pseudopodia. Pseudo means false, F-A-L-S-A, write down the meaning. Okay, pseudo means false, podia means leg. So they have got false foot or false leg. Clear? Then they got flagella, cilia, or they used to show the wriggling movement and musculus propulsion. So these are the different modes of locomotions which we used to find in case of Protista. Clear? They reproduces asexually and sexually by means of cell fusion and zygote formations. And the mode of nutrition in case of Protista, we used to get photosynthetic, where they used to perform the process of photosynthesis. Okay, then we have got holozoic mode of nutrition, where the food is ingested. Then we have got saprotrophic nutrition, where they used to feed on other dead and decaying microorganisms or organisms. Parasitic, where they are totally dependent on the body of the host. Mixotrophic means where they will show mixed type of nutrition, both holophytic and saprotrophic. And we have got symbiotic, where they used to live in symbiotic associations with other organisms. So these are the general characteristics of the Protista. So kindly note it down. Clear? So kindly note the general characteristics of Protista. Okay. Now we'll go through the major group of protists. Clear? What are the major group protists? So protists can be divided into three major groups. All right, those groups are Protistan algae, okay, under which we learn about dinoflagellates, chrysophytes, and euglenoids. Group 2, we have got slime molds, the consumer decomposer protist. And the third group is protozoan protist, under which we will learn about zooflagellata or zooflagellate, rhizopoda, sporozoa, and ciliata. So these are the major group of the protist. Okay, so you can see over here the flow chart. Protista, it can divide into chrysophytes, okay, dinoflagellates, euglenoids, which are the Protistan algae. Clear? So these three are the Protistan algae. Then we have got slime molds, the consumer decomposer protist, okay, then the protozoan protist, which is further divided into amoeboid, or we can say rhizopods one. Okay, then we have got flagellated, zooflagellata, ciliated, and sporozoa. Okay, so this is the simple flowchart diagram of the kingdom Protista. Okay, now let's begin the first one, the Protistan algae, chrysophytes. Okay, we'll just go with the general characteristics, so kindly note it down. Okay, because when we go through the book, we'll find a huge amount of characteristics. Clear? So kindly copy this one. Okay, note down the characteristics of chrysophytes. So first one, characteristics. This group, that means the chrysophytes, they include the diatoms and the golden algae called the desmids. Okay, so kindly note it down. The Protistan algae or the chrysophytes, they will include the diatoms and the golden algae desmids. Now they are the part of the phytoplanktons of the oceans. Okay, so habitat and habitats, so where they are found, they are mainly found in the fresh water as well as in the marine environments. They are microscopic, free floatings, so they are called phytoplankton. Okay, and most of them are photosynthetic. Now since most of them are photosynthetic, these chrysophytes or the diatoms, they are the chief producers in the oceans. You know what in the producers, right? So these diatoms, since most of them are photosynthetic, so they are the chief producers in the oceans. Well, this is very, very important. Okay, in diatoms, the cell wall forms two thin overlapping cells. So mainly in the diatoms, we will find two thin overlapping cells. We are finding two cell walls. The cell wall are made up of two thin overlapping cells, which looks like that of a soap case. Okay, which will fit with one another. So there are two thin overlapping cells which will fit upon one another, just like a soap case. You have seen the soap case, right? Which will fit with one another. So similarly, the cell wall in case of golden algae or the diatoms, let's say, they are formed of two thin overlapping cells which fit with one another, and they look like a soap case. So it is called the frustule. Okay, so there are two thin overlapping cells is called the frustules, and the walls are embedded with silica. Okay, so the cell wall are made of silica, and thus they are indestructible. They cannot be destroyed. Now due to this, these diatoms will leave a large amount of cell wall deposits in their habitat. Now since these cell walls are indestructible, they cannot be destroyed, so these diatoms will leave a huge amount or the large amount of cell wall deposits in their habitat. Okay, and this keeps on accumulating over billions of years. Clear? This will keep on accumulating. Okay, and since this keeps on accumulating over billions of years, it is also known as diatomaceous earth. Remember carefully. Now since this wall are made of silica, they cannot be destroyed, so they will keep on accumulating on the habitat where the diatoms are present. Okay, so it will take billions of years for this cell wall to become deposited. Okay, and usually it will form a diatomaceous earth. Now due to this particular nature, due to the diatomaceous earth, the soil becomes gritty, and this particular soil, all right, it can be used in polishing, it can be used in filtration of oil and syrups. Clear? So there are different uses of this diatomaceous earth. Clear? So kindly go through the characteristics of this Protista algae, that is chrysophytes. Okay, it's in the page number 2.27. okay, so kindly go through it. Next one, figure number 2.20. we can see the examples of few diatoms. All right, so out of these particular examples A, B, C, D and F, you have to remember at least 2 examples. Clear? So you can remember either question or discuss. Okay, Unisea, Tricharidium. Clear? So Melosira. So you can remember any 2 examples from this one. Clear? At least remember 2 examples of chrysophytes. Number 2 is dinoflagellates, which are the organisms which are mostly marine and they are photosynthetic. Clear? It is very important. They appear yellow, green, blue or red depending on the type of pigment present in the cells. So depending on the type of pigments, the dinoflagellates, they used to appear yellow, green, brown, blue or red. Clear? The cell wall has stiff cellulose plates on the outer surface. So we will find a cell wall which is made up of cellulose plates. Alright. The locomotions is mainly done by the help of flagella. There are 2 flagella. One lies longitudinally and the other lies transversely. Okay, and most of these species with brown, green or yellow chromatophores are autotrophic or photosynthetic. So those species which are brown, green or yellow, they are photosynthetic, then they are autotrophic. Example, Ceratimium. And those who don't have chromatophores, all right, they are holozoic. Example, and one is parasitic, that is Blastodinium. Okay, and most species, they are phosphorescent, they emit light, they make the C2 appear glow in the dark. Example is Gonalux, and this Gonalux is very, very important because there's a particular term called red tide, which you have to remember. Okay, if the question comes, what is red tide? So what actually red tide is that this Gonalux, all right, they produces red tide in the sea. When the number keeps on increasing, that means when the number of Gonalux keeps on increasing in the sea, they make the sea surface appear red in color. Clear? And that is called red tide. But it is highly toxic because this Gonalux, they will release a toxic which will kill the marine animals. So remember what is red tide and which dinoflagellates is responsible for this red tide. So Gonalux produces red tide in the sea, and when the number of Gonalux keeps on increasing at the sea will appear red in color. Okay, but this Gonalux, they will secrete a harmful toxic which will kill the marine animals. Alright, so out of Ceratimium, Blastodinium, Gonalux, at least remember 2 examples. You have to remember the scientific name. Alright, next one. Diagram, figure number 2.17. So out of here, at least remember 2 examples. I'm telling you once again, at least remember 2 examples, alright, of dinoflagellates. Next one, euglenoids, majority of which are freshwater organisms which are found in the stagnant water. And some are found in brackish water also. Brackish water means a mixture of fresh and seawater. Right on. Brackish water means mixture of fresh and seawater, and also in damp soils they are present. Okay, so they don't have cell wall. Instead of cell wall, they have a protein-rich layer called pellicle. Can note down the word pellicle. Clear? So they don't have cell wall, but in place of cell walls, they have a protein-rich layer called pellicle, which will make their body flexible. They have 2 flagella. One is long and one is short. So flagella will help in locomotion. Though they are photosynthetic in the presence of sunlight, alright, but whenever they are deprived of sunlight, they will move to the heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Example is Euglena. Okay, and you can see diagram over here, the diagram of Euglena. Clear? So this is the common examples of euglenoids. The example is Euglena. Okay, then kindly note down the second examples. First examples will be a Euglena, and second example, write down Peranema, capital P, okay, P-E-R-A-N-E-M-A, Peranema, P-E-R-A-N-E-M-A, Peranema, and kindly underline it, because it is a scientific name. Okay, so when we have to write the scientific name of an organism, we have to underline it. Clear? According to the rules of nomenclatures, whenever we are writing the scientific name of any species, then we have to underline it separately. There will be the genus name and the species name. For example, human being, Homo sapiens. Homo is the genus, sapien is the species, so we have to underline it separately. Okay, so similarly, Peranema, underline it with the scientific name. Okay, next one, group 2, slime molds, which are the saprotrophic protists which used to feed on other dead decaying organisms. Okay, so these particular slime molds, they used to appear like animals in their vegetative state, but they used to behave like plant in their reproductive stage. Vegetative stage means the juvenile phase, when they are growing, and when they used to attain the stage of reproductive phase, they will behave like a plant. So write down the general characteristics of slime molds. Okay, they are seen during the rainy seasons, growing in cool, shady and moist place on wood, manure, decaying logs, dead leaves and other decomposing plant materials. Okay, there is no tough thing over here, you can easily understand it. Number 2, cell wall is present in the form of spores. Okay, cell wall is present in the form of spores, which is formed of fungal cellulose. Reproductions is both sexual and asexual. Clear? Now, during suitable conditions, they will form an aggregation which is called the plasmodium, which can grow up to several feet. But during unfavorable conditions, this plasmodium will differentiate and forms fruiting bodies bearing spore at their tips. The spore poses a true wall and they are extremely resistant and they can survive for many years under adverse conditions. That means the spores, they can resist the harsh environmental conditions and they can survive for many years under any adverse environmental conditions. And the spores are dispersed by the help of the air currents. Okay, next one, we will begin with the protozoan protist. And before that, kind of write down the 2 examples of slime molds. First one, write down, I'll just give you the easiest one. Okay, so first examples of slime molds, write down the name, scientific name, write down Fuligo, capital F-U-L-I-G-O, Fuligo, okay, F-U-L-I-G-O, Fuligo. Then next example number 2, write down, just one, alright, next example, write down Didymium, capital D-I-D-Y-M-I-U-M, Didymium, D-I-D-Y-M-I-U-M. So these are the 2 examples which I am given on the slime molds. Okay, first one is Fuligo, F-U-L-I-G-O, and second one is Didymium, D-I-D-Y-M-I-U-M, Didymium. So kindly underline it because these are the scientific name. Okay, now next group of protist is it's protozoan. Alright, so these protozoans, they are heterotrophs and they used to live as parasites and predators. Okay, they have been grouped into 4 groups and those are Zooflagellata, Rhizopoda, Sporozoa and Ciliata. Okay, so these are examples of few of the zooflagellates. Giardia, okay, then we have got Leishmania donovani, then we have got Trichomonas and Trichomypha. These are the few examples of zooflagellates. Now let's go with each of the groups. Zooflagellates or flagellate protozoan protists. As the name suggests, they have got flagella. Okay, Zooflagellata. So the mode of locomotion in case of Zooflagellata is flagella. So they have flagella. So write down the characteristics. They are colorless and microscopic organisms. The members of these groups are either free living or they are parasitic. They have flagella for locomotions. Or sexual reproduction takes place by means of binary fissions, where the cell will divide into 2 daughter cells. Bi means 2 and fission means to split. The parental cell will split into 2 daughter cells. The parasitic forms causes disease such as sleeping sickness. Okay, those who are parasitic form, they are highly pathogenic. They cause a different type of disease in case of the host. Okay, so one example is trypanosoma. So write down the characteristics. Clear? Next one, Rhizopoda or sarcodine protozoan protist, which lives in fresh water, sea water or in moist soils. Okay, and they used to move and capture the prey by putting out pseudopodia. So over here the locomotion is done by the help of pseudopodia. Pseudo means false, poda means leg or foot. okay, which is the means of locomotion. The example is amoeba. Clear? So mammalian forms, they have silica cells on the surface, or sexual reproduction takes place by means of binary fissions, and sexual reproduction by means of syngamy or fission of gametes. Contractile vacuole is present for osmoregulation, which is essential for maintaining the ionic balance in the body. Examples: amoeba and entamoeba. Entamoeba is mainly a parasites. Okay, so write down the characteristics. Clear? These are the few examples. Rhizopoda, you can see over here. So here you can see example amoeba. Okay, so this is the amoeba. This is the contractile vacuole, which will help in maintaining osmoregulations. Okay, and you can see the pseudopodia, by which they are able to move and they are able to capture the food particles. So you can see the food vacuoles which are being trapped by the amoeba. Okay, so remember the two examples, amoeba, and remember the word entamoeba histolytica also, which is mainly a parasites. Next one is protozoa, which is the parasitic protozoan protist. Right, they include the diverse organisms because they have got infectious spore stage in their life cycles. So all sporozoans are endoparasitic. Endo means inside. Okay, so they are present within the body of the host. So those parasites which are present within the body of the host, they are called endoparasites. Okay, the body is covered with elastic pellicles. Life cycle will include more than one host. Locomotive organs, it may be cilia, flagella, and pseudopodia. But all the characteristics, they are absent in case of sporozoa. Why? Because they are parasitic in nature. Now since they are parasitic in nature, there is no need of cilia, pseudopodia, or flagella for locomotion. They will anchor within the body of the host by the help of hooks, and they used to absorb the food particles by the help of suckers. So hooks and suckers are present in case of those parasites. And among the endoparasites, the most important one is Plasmodium. Plasmodium causes malaria, so it is a malarial parasites. Okay, which will affect the human population. Okay, next one, ciliata, which bears cilia, like zooflagellates, which bear flagella for locomotion. Ciliata, they bear cilia for locomotion. Okay, so cilia are the organelles of locomotions and food capture. Nutrition is holozoic. Okay, they are aquatic, actively moving organisms because of the presence of thousands of cilia. They have a capital gullet that opens to the offside of the cell surface. There are two types of nuclei. One is called large macromolecule, which will control the vegetative activity, and one is the micronuclei, which may be one or more, which take part in sexual reproductions. All sexual reproduction takes place by means of binary fission, and sexual reproduction by means of conjugation. So all the things we have discussed already. Okay, example paramecium, and you can write down balantridium, which causes ciliary dysentery. Clear? And these are the examples of a paramecium. Okay, so kindly go through it. Figure number 2.29. So we have just gone through the kingdom Protist. Okay, so write down the characteristics, don't go through the book. Okay, in the book we will find huge number of characteristics, you might get confused. So whatever the thing I have just taught you, kindly note it down. You just need to go through those characteristics, and most important thing, remember the organ for locomotions and the two examples of each group. Clear? So in the next class we will begin with the new kingdom, and the kingdom will be fungi. Okay, so see you in next class. Thank you.